Okay, we're back. We're going to take a bit of a turn from Angular, which we've been talking a lot about recently. I'm going to get back in Angular. I have some video ideas for in the future, but I've been using more Python at work, and that's been giving me ideas for videos, and hence here we are back with Python. I got a latte at the ready. Hopefully you have some coffee in hand too, and we're going to do something that I did recently at work. I'll tell you the situation, and maybe that will help you understand why you would want to do something like this. You probably already have your own reason, and maybe that's why you're watching this video. Thanks for getting me past 1,000 subscribers, by the way. If you're new to this channel, it's your first one, consider subscribing. I just make videos on programming, like tips and tricks and things that I learn as I go along in this programming world, and share them with you guys. So if that sounds interesting, don't forget to hit subscribe. Today we're going to write to a JSON file. We're going to write JSON actually to a JSON file, obviously, and show you how to do that in Python. I recently had to do this, and the reason being I had this really long JSON file. It was like, I want to say there were around 10,000 lines, maybe more. I don't want to try to sound over dramatic, but that's actually how many. There were about that many lines of this JSON. A lot of them were just a bunch of nonsense. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to take only the JSON from that particular file that I cared about and that others cared about, condense it down and reformat it a little bit to make it more useful for me and other people in the future. So that's what made me stumble upon how do I do this, because I have never done this before. I knew how to navigate JSON and all that, but never wrote to a JSON file. And that's what we're going to do in this video. If you also want a video on how to navigate JSON, you know, the tips and tricks, I guess, and how to, I guess, of doing that, let me know. I might make that a video because I never actually made a video dedicated to that. So let's look at my test Python file. I have this dictionary object right here named dog, and it just has a bunch of data that we can turn into JSON and write to the JSON file. And you can see we have some properties. We have name, breed, age. We have owners here, which is a list of more JSON objects. And owners, I was just thinking of something to make. These are just the owners of this bulldog named George, who's 4 years old. And there's two owners. There's Mike and Carol, both of different ages, 40 and 38. So this is my quote unquote going to be JSON, and I want to write this to its own JSON files. So the first thing I'm going to do is import the JSON module, and here we're going to use it to run a method called dump. Before we do that, we're going to use a with statement in Python, and we're going to say with open. So we're going to use the open function in Python. The first parameter is going to be the location in which we're writing to. So in our case, I'm just going to write to this directory right here. So I'm just going to copy the path. And then at the very end, I'm going to say test.json like that. And I'm also going to put another parameter, and it's just a single character. And this is where if you want to do something a little different, you can. So with the open function in Python, here are the different modes that you can use. So you can use read, which we don't want, but append, write, whoops, didn't mean to highlight that. Append, write, and create, you might be debating between these three. Append just means that if there's data already in that file, it's going to append to what's currently in there and not delete or overwrite anything. Write is going to overwrite something. So if there's already data in that file, it's just going to erase it all and rewrite into that file. And create means it expects the file to not already exist, and if it does, it'll throw an error. So you can use one of these three as you see fit, but in my case, I'm just going to use the write, so I'm just going to use the W. And then we can say as and then an alias, so I'm going to say F for file. And what's nice about doing this in a with statement is whenever we're done with the logic inside of it, it will go ahead and close this file stream. So now we can use the JSON.dump, and you want to make sure you do the dump, not dumps. And then the first parameter is going to be our JSON data that we're going to write. So in our case, it's going to be this dog. And then secondly, our writer. So we named it F, and I'm just going to pass F in as the second parameter. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And now if I go ahead and run this, py test py, Oh, it doesn't like the backslash. So I'm going to preface this path with an R, meaning just ignore all the backslashes, and let's try this again. There we go. Ran really quick just because I guess there wasn't much JSON here to begin with, but now we have a test.json that created it. You might have seen it pop up after I ran this. And let's open that, and here it is, JSON format, pretty similar, or exactly similar to the dictionary, and now it's in a JSON file. If you want to format, by the way, little tip, in VS Code, you can go ahead and download an extension. There are plenty of them to prettify or pre-print JSON. So I think this one, the prettify JSON. I have a few. And then once you already download that extension install, you can go to View, Command Palette, and start typing in JSON, prettyprint, or prettify JSON, whichever one you end up downloading. And I'll just run this one. Here it's formatted a little easier for us to see what's going on. So that's pretty much it, and that's how you can write data to a JSON file. Our dictionary here, this dog dictionary object, to a JSON file. And like I said, that's what I did when I took a really large JSON file. I parsed out only the things I cared about, reformatted it into a dictionary, and made that dictionary into a JSON file. So there it is. If you're interested in how to parse JSON, how to go through JSON in Python, I'll probably make a video on that in the future. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed and learned something. Hope to see you in the next one.